Welcome to the Gamers Inn. Come on in, pull up a chair next to the fire. It looks like you've had a long journey. I'm your host, Jocelyn, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hello. I feel like I've gone back in time and then came back, and that's why I'm so tired.
Is that because you have so much nostalgia going on because you got your hands on an SNES Classic?
I feel like that's the case. Although I wish I had played more. I don't feel like I played enough, considering it's been out for almost a week. But I did play a good amount. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I've played the crap out of mine. Oh my god,
good.
dude.
Good thing it came with two controllers, am I right?
Yes. And we actually, so the really funny thing is that the plug on the back of like the SNES Classic, so the power cord, is actually the same sort of plug that you use for a PlayStation controller. So we didn't actually have like a plug close enough, like a wall plug, to plug it in and still be able to like sit on the couch, because it has the same problem that the Nintendo Classic did, which is like the cords are like this long. They're tiny.
USB is expensive. USB cords, they're hot commodity these days.
Yeah. So what we did is I'm actually running the SNES Classic off of my PlayStation while the PlayStation is in rest mode, because I've got the charging cable that normally I use for my PlayStation controller is running the SNES Classic, so that I have enough space so that I can put the Classic on the little ottoman right in front of our couch, and then I can actually use the controllers sitting back on my couch, because we have a super long HDMI cable. But yeah, we didn't have a long power cable, so that's my workaround solution. I find it hilarious that it can run off of the power it takes to charge a controller.
Yeah, I tried to run it off the TiVo connectors, which is how I run my Chromecast, but that didn't work. So I just used the thing it came with and thought that was the solution. But I remember running the NES Classic off of the PlayStation 4 and then finding that hilarious that I was only turning on the PlayStation 4 every 6 hours to make sure that every time I was playing the NES Classic, that it had power. So that's
the thing. It doesn't even have to be it doesn't even have to be on. The PlayStation doesn't even have to be on. It just has to be like in rest mode, and it's still enough juice.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It is, and I guess I don't know. Like, it is a small, like the Super NES Classic, like the NES Classic, is this little, dinky, all in a box TV game machine that you've seen in the past that sell for like $20, and they're really crappy controller. But for some reason, Nintendo decided to go all in on this and develop a $100 system for you to use. And with the NES Classic, we saw that as well, except they didn't make enough because they didn't really expect the demand. Now, I don't know if we're going to talk about availability in our stories of how we got this, because I think
100%.
Like we lucked
out. This is literally the SNES Classic show. That's all that either one of us has been playing this week. So this is all we're talking
I just
about,
thought, like, do we want the emails? Because there are people out there that didn't get one. But I remember last Friday on Twitter seeing a lot of people saying, I got one, with a photo of them with the thing in the car, usually. A lot of those photos.
Yeah, I was surprised with the number of people that were in my feed who got one this time around that didn't. And obviously this is all anecdotal. But it seems like almost everyone who wanted one got one. And I say that knowing that Garrett didn't get one.
Except Garrett.
Yeah.
We know he's not listening because he's doing ITN right now, so there's no way he's going to get all angry. But yeah, Garrett didn't get one. And not for lack of trying, because I believe he had tweeted that he went out to Best Buy and got in line. And a lot of, like, I can only speak
so basically what happened with Garrett is he went and then they said they didn't know anything about giving out numbers ahead of time or whatever, even though that's what the Best Buy website said. So basically Best Buys in the States seem to have been a little bit of a cluster F, but he also didn't then stick around until the store opened because he was having car trouble. So he actually had to go and take his car in for an appointment. So because they were so disorganized, he was just like, okay, forget it. Like, I'm not going to be one of those like running to the back of the store people. Whereas like up here, I mean, I don't know about you, but Matt So Matt was super freaking awesome. Didn't even wake me up. Got out of bed at like 6:30 in the morning. Drove like 45 minutes to the closest like Toys R Us and went in and was like 20th in line and got me an SNES Classic, and then woke me up with a coffee in one hand and a classic in the other, and I was just like, oh, you are the greatest.
That's really nice. Honestly, that's
well, because originally I had asked him, there's one really close to his work. So originally I had said, okay, well, on your way to work, would you mind? And then he was like, I wanted to work from home, so I just got up early and then came back. I was like, oh, you could have just woken me up then and said I could use the car. But anyways, he's amazing. I have a classic. I'm excited. And thanks to you and your, like, I feel like my IP address, like Nintendo has somehow been listening to the Gamers Inn all these years and heard all of my Nintendo badmouthing. So I think my IP address is actually like blocked from doing any sort of online ordering of the SNES Classic. Like, I had such a bad time trying to make, like, I mean, pre-orders were ridiculous anyways, but even like when it went live the night before on
EB or Electronic Boutique,
oh man. Yeah, so that's owned by GameStop, right?
Yeah, I guess it's not called Electronic Boutique. It's just called EB Games. Yeah, and it's the Canadian affiliate for GameStop. So they used to have EB Games in the States, and then they merged with GameStop. They kept all the EB Games here, and they have GameStop in the States. Is what I think is the case.
Right. Same company, anyways. Was my point.
It's a huge company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened was they actually ended up tweeting out a link if you didn't use the link that they tweeted out at midnight. So they had a store page available, which is what I was sitting on. So when you actually searched on EB for the SNES Classic, you would go to the store page, and then the store page was just sitting there saying, you know, out of stock. They had a warning every time you F5 that said you can only buy one per customer, blah, 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 blah. And then for some reason, when they went live, that page never went live. They had another page set up that you couldn't get to by going to the search bar. You could only get to by clicking the link on Twitter. So I was sitting there like refreshing, and clicking away the stupid warning every single time I did that. And it never went live. And I was like, what the heck's going on? And then by the time I actually like went to the Canadian Amiibo subreddit that Ryan has pointed us to so many times, and by the time I actually went to Twitter, everyone was like, yeah, it's sold out. It's sold out. I was like, how could it get sold out? Like, I wasted like half an hour F5ing. And it was brutal. And so when I found out it was like a special secret, like only through Twitter link, I was so mad.
I did the same thing. Honestly, I was refreshing for about a half hour because I, as most people know, I got my pre-order through Best Buy in August, and I was good. But I did want to get some for yourself and for some friends and for my brothers. We'll get to that later.
You were an ordering machine.
I did pretty well for my folks, and the thing is, like, I only got one. So for those who might be a little, miffed that I got one for everybody who needed one, or that was on my list. I know hey, why wasn't I on your list? Like, well, Amiibo Canada subreddit, go there. Yeah. So I got mine from Best Buy. So then when EB Games went up, you're right. Like it was a total craziness. And I've never found that EB Games has been very good at this sort of thing. They've always dropped the ball when it comes to these hot ticket items from Nintendo, and that's just my experience. So I'd never really count on them, but that was a new weirdness. And the Amiibo Canada subreddit was basically in the same page where they're like, they didn't even know it was up, and I guess they were even joking that you had to use like a CSS hack to get it into your cart, and that's how crazy it was.
Yeah.
So EB, and then flash forward to the morning where I'm a little like, oh gosh, I don't know how this is gonna go. So then Walmart goes live, and I get one. So there's like, ding, there's Jocelyn's. And I got a text from my brother at like 7:30 in the morning. He's like, yeah, we lined up at 4 o'clock, and we got one each. And I'm like, well, there you go. There was actually a post, and we're talking kind of like Canada, but I think, the same situations can kind of be extrapolated over to the States, except that the States did a lot more pre-orders from different retailers. Walmart had not done pre-orders. Amazon didn't even do any pre-orders. So they actually posted the stock at most Walmarts being between the range of 30 and high 70s, depending on where you were. And there's two Walmarts in town, and they were reported to have each 50 units around. So it was very healthy stock.
Which kind of, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but then if you think about like the size of the town that you live in, like 50 units or 100 units for a town that's the size of the town that you live in, like that's not really all that many.
No, you're right. And EB Games was bragging that they were gonna, not bragging, but announcing that they were gonna have 500 units available for ordering online at midnight. So the orders we were trying to get at midnight today, right at the start of the 29th, that was a 1 in 500 chance on the internet in Canada. The joke may be that Canada doesn't have the internet, but I assure you, a majority of this country has a connection.
Those 500 units went in, even with all of the craziness around the orders and how terrible their website was and the fact that you had to use the link from Twitter, those 500 units still sold out in the first like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Walmart was, I think, if again, on the subreddit there's like, they timed everything. Like Walmart was like 5 minutes. Amazon lasted 20 minutes only because they were Prime exclusive. I think you were even hovering on the, not to throw you under the bus.
No,
hovering
but I couldn't.
like not sure whether you should order yet another one.
Exactly. And I feel so bad because like you said, they lasted for like 20 minutes and I had the add to cart button and I was like, I don't know if I should do this because at that point you had already gotten me one because I wanted one to give as a gift and I don't want to say to who because I don't want to spoil his birthday, but I probably just spoiled it anyway by saying his birthday. But anyways, I had, one unit that I wanted to give away as a gift and then I had the unit for me and then I was like, okay, well, I'm covered. I knew Ryan had an extra that ended up going to a friend of ours over in Quebec. So I was just like, I think we're covered. So sorry, Garrett. I totally didn't forget about you until it was too late.
Garrett is also in the States. So, there is that, like, how do you get it cost me $20 to ship it a province up. Could you imagine how much it would cost to get it down to the States? But the thing is, the other confusion was that it wasn't even going to be available in Quebec. So the person that wanted one was already kind of like, checking out because like, well, I might need someone to get me one in Ontario and ship it up. But actually at the last minute, Nintendo kind of said like, no, we're all good. We're going to sell in Quebec. Toys R Us and Walmart will have it. We're all good. And
which is so weird. Like,
yeah. And I think honestly, I think that's why Amazon held off so long and didn't do pre-orders because they were waiting for Nintendo to kind of be like, just put it out there. Like, no one's going to sue you. Everybody wants this. If they try to go after you, they're going to have like a mob on their hands. So it was available there.
Yeah, and in terms of availability, it seems like they did do a better job this time around. I mean, it still doesn't seem like you still can't find them in stores. They're not on shelves. Like you basically had to get them day of within, either the first 5 minutes of them going up online or you had to line up, go into the store in the morning. So they're not exactly all over the place, but they're definitely better than the NES Classic was. To the point that I even saw a story saying that the resellers on eBay are only getting about $165 American per console, as opposed to they were getting $300, $400, $500 at this time in the NES Classic's release cycle. So it seems like either consumers are wising up or Nintendo did a better job of, getting consoles into the hands of the rabid fanboys who would pay $300, $400, and $500 for and basically an emulator, right?
Like for a glorified, it is an emulator. And the thing is, Nintendo coming out saying like, don't pay extra. I went to EB Games the day before this launched and I asked him like, hey, tomorrow how are they going to go? And he's like, I can't tell you numbers, but when Reggie said don't pay more than you have to, pay the MSRP or whatever, you're going to be fine. You'll get one. He wasn't kidding. So like, and they're expecting shipments, I think, within the next week. Which is
much, much better than the original launch.
Because the NES Classic was like the original allotment, a little bit more mid-December for the Christmas rush, then a little bit more between January and February, and that was it.
And then they said, yeah, they're not stocking them anymore. They're not making them. They're done.
Yeah.
So
I honestly believe that, and I think folks who were a little skeptical when Nintendo was saying we're going to have enough of these, I honestly think that you will be able to get one in store. You'll see it on shelves by the time Christmas hits. Yeah. I don't think you're going to see it on shelves. You're going to have to work for it until maybe like mid-December, but I have a feeling
it'll be everywhere.
I think it'll be everywhere for Christmas. Honestly, they'd be crazy to miss out on that opportunity again. Mm-hmm. Like when the NES Classic was envisioned and we saw it, and it's like, oh, this is going to be at the checkout, right going into electronics, a stack of them every day, because these things are going to sell like hotcakes. And they didn't even hit the shelves. They literally just hit whoever grabbed one fast enough, and they weren't there for the Christmas launch. Like, could you imagine the Tickle Me Elmo not being on shelves for Christmas? Like, I don't know why I use that example, but
I was gonna say, and Tickle Me Elmo was totally sold out all before Christmas. Like,
yeah, but they actually hit the shelves, and I think they made more of those. I honestly don't know. I just remember seeing blurry people like tear each other apart. It was like the 90s. So, speaking of which, the Super NES Classic. You'll be able to get one, I think, eventually. Mm-hmm. But I do realize that there are folks out there that are still a little sore. But I think if you had a plan and you worked for it, and I'm not saying Garrett didn't work for it, but if you really, really put your heart and soul into it and went there early or looked out for pre-orders, I think you got one.
Yeah.
And if you missed out, it was just, it was bum luck, but keep trying, because I think they're going to have, I think you're going to start seeing more orders soon. Yeah.
Well, we will keep our fingers crossed for everyone out there who didn't happen to get their hands on it. But so as we have alluded to, Ryan and I both did. That's pretty much what we've been playing this week. I know I have played the crap out of Donkey Kong Country. Oh, my God. It is like one of my favorite games of all time. And I even have, because the controllers are exactly the same, I still have all the muscle memory to the point of dying at the exact same point in the exact same levels that I totally remember dying over and over again as a kid. Wow. It's like I go into the level and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember this part. Oh yep, that's how you die here. Oh yep, there we go again. Over and over and over and over. I had to like take my hands off the controller and be like, no, bad hands. Play like you play now. Be good at it.
Speaking of like the controllers, we talked a bit about it being, it's just an emulation box, but I have to say that the way Nintendo has put together like the look of the console, I mean, there's a video component of the show, but it's over there. I wish I had it, but the controllers feel it's like nostalgia. I know they're not exactly the same. There's probably some slight differences, but it does feel
it feels the same.
It feels the same, which is basically what nostalgia is. And I will take, I think personally, outside of the original hardware, which good luck hooking that up to an HD television, come on. But outside of that, I think this is the best way to play these games. And that comes from someone who's purchased a lot of virtual console games. I will appreciate being able to play A Link to the Past, anywhere I want on my Switch as soon as Nintendo gets their acting gear, but for now, playing on the Super NES Classic, I think that's the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. And I know there are going to be people out there who's like, oh, just download it on your PC, man. And it's like, I still think this is the best way to do it. I know it costs money, folks. An emulation on their PC, which is technically not legal, but emulation's legal. Downloading the ROMs is illegal, I think. Let's not get into that because I don't know enough.
I have no idea. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. But anyways, I think that it literally is the best way to play these games outside of the original hardware. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, like Donkey Kong Country. I haven't had a chance to check that one out yet, but it's one of my favorite games on.
So what have you actually checked out?
So the reason I didn't play a lot is because I was trying to finish Samus Returns, which is the second game in the series, and then Super Metroid, which is on the Super NES Classic, and a game I hate to admit have never finished and never played on the original Super NES. I kind of missed out on that one. So I played
that there were a lot of titles on the SNES Classic that I did miss out on, and basically like when I was growing up, it's so funny to think of because now we live in this world where it's like, well, October's coming and there's literally a new game I need to pick up every week. Um,
You want? Well, we do
well,
need. You have to. We have
yeah,
to. Right?
exactly.
It's our
We gotta
job.
do reviews. It's a job. Yeah. So there's like Assassin's Creed, there's Shadow of War, there's the South Park game, and Mario Odyssey all coming out in October. And
Mhm.
that's so crazy because when I was growing up, I literally got like a game for my birthday and a game for Christmas. 2 games a year. That was it. So there are so many games here that I have just like totally never played, including, and you've got this one in the notes too, Super Mario RPG. I just started playing that. Oh my God, dude, it's so good.
It's my favorite game, and no joke, there is a song in that game that, or a tune, I guess, that I hum to this day, and will find myself humming, and like, what is that from? Oh, right, it's from my favorite game ever. And this is the thing, like the Super NES for me was a system that I appreciated the games I was able to play on, but the tail end of that system, which was Super Mario RPG, it was like the last game that came out for it. That's
Mm.
the first game I remember saving up my money to purchase. We talk about birthdays and Christmas. Like that was the game I remember vividly, like taking my toonies and putting them in a jar and being like, and like
We
Super
didn't
NES
have
games.
toonies back then.
Did we? I think we
I
did.
don't think so.
Whatever, whatever currency, loonies.
Loonies.
Could have been even worse because now it's coming back to me. Like I think my mom said, there's no way you're going to be able to go into Toys R Us and pay for a video game with a bunch of nickels, dimes, and loonies, because there was like $100. That's what Super NES games costed in the tail end there. They were like $100 because I remember I can picture the flyer. It's like 99.99 Super Mario RPG. So the Super NES is a steal because it's 20 games for that price, and 2 controllers.
21.
But yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, you're right. So the Super NES, the tail end, I think that was like the first system that I started to actually really care about games and buy games that I wanted to play, not just what was coming out around Christmas. And even then, like the first console where I really remember, knowing what was going on, it was like the GameCube slash the Wii. Like I was kind of like a casual, like one of those casual console players, right? So with the Super NES, like I think that you look at that catalog and there are games on there that people think fondly of that I just never got around to playing, like Super Metroid, a lot of the Kirby games.
The Secret of Mana or whatever.
Yeah, Secret of
Yeah.
Mana, Final Fantasy 3. I just didn't play those games as a kid. Like I played a lot of crappy games, but because we used to
Weirdly
rent
enough,
them
I played
before.
Contra, and I was like, like I don't. It must have been a game for my brother or something.
Sure.
Like it feels like the kind of thing that he would get. And again, like I remember like dying all the same, like very very early on in the very first level, like.
Yeah. How do you even play that game? It's like one hit kill, and you
Yeah.
got 3 lives. It's game over, and it's like, well, screw this. Like, I hit the reset button so much on that one, and yeah, and I never played Contra, Castlevania. I've never played a Castlevania game, which saying out loud
Castlevania is the one that I always confuse, not because of the content, just because of the name. I always confuse Castlevania with Wolfenstein. Always.
I think it's the castle
Yeah.
and just the evil things inside the castle is where you're getting at it.
But yeah, so I mean, I've played oh god, so much. Well, like I say, I'm I think 35% of the way through Donkey Kong. I've made it through the first 3 worlds. I'm up at the snowy mountain peak now. So I've played Donkey Kong a lot. I played Super Mario RPG. I played Mario Kart, obviously. I'm trying to remember now. But I feel like I tried Star Fox and I unlocked Star Fox 2 because I'd never played Star Fox.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so bad and I like it's totally not my kind of game. So it might be for some people. I know a lot of people look on it fondly. I hated it.
Okay, so you say that, and I have these weird memories about Star Fox, and I think we've talked about this on the show, but I remember going to Ontario Place in Toronto, and they had a Nintendo Land. So they had Lego Land, and then right above it was Nintendo Land. And I think they kiboshed Nintendo Land like pretty quick, and then it became like an arcade. And then there was one Super NES like thing. So being a kid, it's like everything else costs money. the Super NES is free, so I'm gonna go play it. And Star Fox was there, and it freaked me out because they're freaking puppets, man. They're so creepy, and it just scared the crap out of me. And I never played it, so I never played Star Fox. So you have to beat the first level of Star Fox to unlock Star Fox 2.
Yes,
And
which is what I did, because Star Fox 2 is the never been released one, right? So I was like, okay, I'm just going to jump right into that one. But the other thing, I kept pressing B. I was like, because you know in Zelda, like you have to keep pressing all the way through all the dialogue, and it like shows you all the dialogue, and then you press again to move to the next one. I kept totally skipping all the dialogue in Star Fox because I was pushing the wrong button. It would get like 3 letters up on the screen, and then like I would hit the button just like, again, like a muscle memory thing, and I'd skip it. So I don't even know what the story of Star Fox is.
The story is basically Andros is a dick and he's trying to kill people, so you need to find him. But I agree. And Tombstone X in the chat room is basically saying, like, for the time it was good, because yes, it was one of the first times you could get polygonal graphics on a home console. And I just found that it's kind of like going back to early 3D, and at the time it was revolutionary, but now compared to what we have, this is why the 16-bit era is so revered, because it was kind of like the peak of gaming, and then they hit the reset button when they went to polygonal, and they had to build their way back up again to where we are now, or I guess to where the 360 was. That was kind of, again, where they kind of hit that stride where if you look at a game, it's like, yeah, this is going to age well. But Xbox, N64, stuff like that, not so much. Especially here with Star Fox. And I barely finished that first level, and as soon as I was done, I was like, perfect. Let's check out Star Fox 2, because honestly, I felt like if we hadn't tried it and were able to talk about it on the show, I think that would be kind of a missed opportunity. And I found Star Fox 2 to be a lot more playable, and actually, a lot more fun. I'm not going to say it's still a great game, because again, it hasn't aged very well, and also it's a game that never came out. Although they stand by the fact that they never released it, because it was actually finished in, well, the credit is I think 96. So that was like the year.
I thought it said 94. Anyways, doesn't really matter.
It was like late in the game, so it was right before the N64 came out, if not the same year. And it has some interesting stuff in it, and unlike Star Fox, they kind of mix, polygonal and they kind of do like what looks like texture mapping with some of the sprites, how they lay it over the polygonals. So that was kind of cool, and I'm sure groundbreaking for the time. But it felt more varied than Star Fox, where you're trying to defend a map, and there's like Andros is trying to attack Corneria or whatever. I
was like, I have no idea, because again, with the skipping of the text.
Corneria, like, protect your eyes. So it was interesting. There's just a world map, and it's all in real time, and you're flying around, and it's basically like a point and click adventure until you hover over like a missile or a bunch of a squadron or a battle carrier, and you have to do different missions. It doesn't change the fact that you're still like, feels like you're controlling like a submarine in the air, because it's just like, it's really slow.
Yeah.
But for what it was, and I guess for its time, it would have been pretty revolutionary. And I did find, again, it was a little more fun than Star Fox, but I lost interest pretty quick, because again, it's not what I bought it for, but it is cool that it's there.
Well, yeah, and I feel like you're right. There were some that I lost interest in very, very quickly. And it's funny because I remember playing Contra, even though it was like the first 4 platforms, like over and over and over again. But I remember playing that game for like months and like always dying at the same spot, but just trying to get those high scores and stuff. But now with so many other options, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I don't actually have to play this, and I can move on and I can do something else cool, like Super Mario RPG. So I feel like there was one other thing I wanted to just mention. I'm just trying to remember what it was now. Oh, when you were talking about like the whole like 16-bit and all the rest of it, like I couldn't believe, like in my head. So right now on the overlay, you guys can see I'm using my green screen and I'm using like a Donkey Kong Country background. That in my head is what Donkey Kong Country the game looked like that crisp, that clear, like looked freaking awesome. And when I actually booted it up, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I
They
had
made
this
three
like
of those on that system,
they
right?
did, yeah.
Yeah. It's you're right. It does not like again like
I
16-bit
just
era
didn't
like
like, yeah, if for whatever reason I didn't kind of realize it. Probably just because I used to like the kind of TV I used to play it on, and the size of TV too, because I remember we had like the air quotes big like 27-inch TV that was like the family TV, and then we had this like teeny tiny little like 18-inch thing that was like in the back corner of the basement where we had all our Nintendo hooked up to. It was so small. It was one of those where that had like the pull to turn on thing, or the put. I can't
oh
remember if it was pull
wow.
or a push thing to turn it
Would have been a
on.
pull, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. And then when you shut
And
it
the
off,
dial on the front with the like that went like ka-chunk ka-chunk every time you changed the channel. Yeah, that was the TV I used to play
same.
Nintendo on. So when you have this little 18-inch thing that's like super duper old school, yeah, I thought Donkey Kong looked amazing, but it was probably like 16 pixels total.
Yeah, and this is the other thing too is there's some chat of ratios and HD versus what Tombstone's calling the boob tube. You are playing in 4:3. You can play in pixel perfect, and I think you can play in stretch mode, but I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, yeah, you can play. There's like the CRT thing, that the replicator or whatever, the pixel perfect and stretched, I think, are the three options.
Yeah, and like in the collection, like the setup of the menu is the exact same as the NES Mini, where you can have up to 4 suspend points per game. There's some really chiptune menu music. All the games are presented in a line. You can scroll through. The biggest difference that I noticed, because I had it turned on and I was working, and it just runs through your games. It does, like, I think they call it the My Gameplay demo, and characters pop out, and I'm guessing you didn't see it because you were too busy playing it, but if you leave it long enough, it will actually, characters will come out and start playing, like start loading your saves and showing you what you did in that save and showcasing the game. And if you haven't played the game yet, it'll actually just run through a demo that it has saved on the unit. So I thought that was a neat touch and kind of an interesting way to get you to try games that you weren't really interested in trying. Because again, with 21 games on here, I don't really think everybody's going to be like, I have to play and beat everyone. I'm sure there are people out there, but I think for the most part, and me included, especially with the NES Mini, I'll try every one of them, but there are like probably 4 or 5 that I'm really just going to latch onto and go through. I think everybody has...
I want to stop the show right now and just go and finish Donkey Kong, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, we're so close. We could probably just wrap it up, but no, Donkey Kong Country is a fantastic game. I
love
really
the exclamation marks too at the end of the level names when you clear everything. It's such a sense of accomplishment when I find all the secrets.
It was back when Rare was really doing some solid work, and I like the Rare days in the N64 as well. I know a lot of folks aren't huge fans of Donkey Kong Country 64 and Banjo-Kazooie, but they're my jam. But I haven't touched Super Mario World. I haven't touched Legend of Zelda.
I watched Matt play Super Mario World.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god, it was so funny. He was getting so frustrated.
Really? I remember that game being like just buckets of fun. What was it?
Yeah, me too. No, it was just like he just kept dying to stupid stuff and like saying that things were slipping, and like he's like, "Look, this is slippery. It shouldn't be slippery. What's going on?" I was just, oh man, I was dying laughing.
That's like, what it was though. It
Yeah.
had some newness, some momentum in there.
Yeah.
And then if you weren't careful, you would slide off things. I'm looking at the list of games. One that jumps out to me is one that I never finished. And a lot of these games on this list that I say I never finished, I did play them on Virtual Console, but I really do feel like putting those games alongside everything else on the Wii U and the Wii at the time, it just didn't. You couldn't stick with it because it felt like you were playing something inferior to what you could have been playing. But with the original controller and these nostalgia hanging around, it just felt like a better place. It feels like a better place to play these games. One of those being Earthbound. Never finished it. on the Wii. I got it on the Wii U and never finished it. I remember really enjoying it. It's another one of those
I think I
RPGs.
remember you talking about it because when I was scrolling through all the games on the Classic or on the SNES Classic, I was like, Earthbound came up, and I was like, why do I know this name? And I think it's because you talked about it.
I did, yeah. And Earthbound's one of those weird games that came out here in the States, but was just so it's a cult classic, right?
Mm.
It's one of Nintendo's games that doesn't really come over to this to the States. This one did. It's actually the sequel to Mother. So there's Mother 1, 2, and 3 in Japan. This is Mother 2, but they called it Earthbound. There was never an Earthbound 2, or I think they did translate the first one, which was an NES game, and it's called Earthbound Beginnings or something, and it was
Okay.
only available on the Virtual Console. So it's one I really want to play. Super Metroid, I want to finish. Nostalgia factor, yeah, like Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, Super Mario Kart. Oh, Mario RPG. I'm glad you're playing that. So I want to know, as someone who never played it before, you jumped in.
Hmm.
Like, how does it
It
feel
was
to be playing like the first Super Mario RPG?
it was literally like, so Matt, like I mentioned, walked in with the system and a coffee and said, "You need to play Super Mario RPG. Like,
Oh,
you're not allowed to play anything else." I don't even know if I would have opened it at this point if Matt hadn't told me that that was like the game I had to play.
it's talking
Um,
sword. I mean, it's amazing.
yeah, it like, oh my god, dude, it's like the humor in it is amazing. The combat's really fun. I have a companion now who is clearly a cloud, but for some reason they call him a frog.
Hello, yep.
Yep.
His backstory is both amazing and tragic. So
Aw.
just you wait.
I've gotten to the point now where I'm in the sewers, so I
Okay.
just beat like a mini boss in the sewers.
It's my favorite game on the Super NES. And again, we already talked about it, but it's just one of those games that holds a very like it's what I'll always remember. And it's the beginning of one of my favorite parts about Nintendo games, which are these like weird, let's put Mario in an RPG. And having played a lot of the Mario RPGs, they just never really lived up to what Super Mario RPG started, because this
Mm.
was developed by Square, which are the Final Fantasy folks, or wait, is that Enix? I can't remember which half, but I'm pretty sure they're Final Fantasy. Yeah, because Final Fantasy is in here. I could quickly check it, but yeah, it's Square. So Super Mario RPG, I don't think they never really followed up with another RPG with Mario in it that kind of lived up to its original,
Mm.
because it was a different developer. Like Square hasn't really worked with Nintendo since then. This is the last major game that Square put out on a Nintendo platform. Outside of a couple of like really like here's a bone kind of thing, this was
Mm.
their last ditch effort, because right after this they went over to PlayStation because of the format wars with the CD versus more cartridges.
Right.
So I don't know. Like this one holds a special place in my heart. There are characters in this that feel like they're Mario characters, but are owned by Square.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've come across them yet, but in the screenshots you'll see Gino, and he's a character that people fan favorite, but Nintendo can't use him because he's a Square character,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Um, and honestly, like people who played this game are like, yeah, Ryan, and people who haven't, it's like, who the hell's Gino? You
Yeah.
know? So but hopefully you stick with it. I'm glad Matt kind of told you to do, because you're right. Like you look at this, it's like Donkey Kong Country, very polygonal. They've made polygonal and then they turn them into sprites. So it looks a little funky, but honestly, it's my favorite game on the platform. I have not touched it yet because I know if I do, I wouldn't be able to touch anything else. So
Yep. I really well. The thing I like about it is the combat is really interesting because it's that like turn-based combat, but then there's also a little bit of the timing you have to do to get like the super attacks. So like you choose your attack, and then if you hit the attack button at just the right time, you'll basically like double your damage. So that was a really cool kind of, and you can also block by again perfectly timing the block right when your opponent does their crazy ability, whatever it happens to be. So I found that that was a way to kind of make that kind of combat a little more interesting and a little bit more engaging, as opposed to just like I choose my ability, everything goes off, and then I choose my next ability, and then everything goes off. Like it just like where you, I was actually like paying attention and trying to do stuff when things are happening. So I enjoyed that kind of. To me, it was a change. I don't know why. That more games, more turn-based games don't do this, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and it's something that's stuck with the franchise. And you're right. I don't understand why
I've
more.
never played any. I didn't realize that the Super Mario RPG was a franchise.
Yeah, they don't. Well, it's more of like a concept, really. They actually switched after this. They went Paper Mario,
Right.
and then Paper Mario kind of turned.
I played Paper Mario, the original, like all the way through.
Oh well, then yeah, it has similar combat, like the time-based, turn-based combat.
I don't remember timing anything in Paper Mario, which is maybe why Paper Mario was so difficult for me, because I didn't realize I could do like timing attacks.
Why am I doing such terrible damage? Come on, Mario, you have a freaking hammer. Like, you should be clobbering these fools. Yeah, it's so Paper Mario, and then they came out with Mario and Luigi, and those games were in similar style and similar humor. And then Paper Mario kind of went to a different style, and then Mario and Luigi continued. So they've been doing Mario and Luigi games mostly on always on the portables. So GBA.
That would explain why I missed them, because the 3DS I think was the first one that I had. Like, I didn't have a Game Boy. I didn't have, like, anything. I remember, like, I would steal my friends' Game Boys just to play Tetris. Like, I was obsessed with Tetris on the Game Boy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, too. Like, you look at these systems and how they're doing, you wonder what they do next. And obviously, they've already announced that the Super NES Classic is going to continue into 2018. And then the NES Classic's coming back in the summer. I think the N64 is nearly impossible, because that controller is batshit, and how do you have
the controller is probably a challenge. I don't know. I would hope that they would do it, because I feel like for me, as much as the SNES is like, it was my first system, and I'm so glad that I get to play Donkey Kong again, because I love that game so much. Like, I can't even explain how much I love that game. But the first system I had where I like played with my friends, we'd, have sleepovers and play GoldenEye all night. Like, just that's kind of what I did from my like late, I guess what do you call them before you hit your teens? I guess my preteen years would be good. Like, kind of like from the time I was like 10 till the time I was like 13 was very, very much the N64. So I really, really want it.
I mean, I agree. I remember,
but it would be because the controller would be tough.
The controller would be tough. You definitely wouldn't be able to pack in more than two. I think two is your
right, because that was also the first system that had more than two controllers, right? That you could do like 4-player on.
Four, and really, I could see the only thing causing an issue with 4 players is from an emulation standpoint. That might be tough to and you might require more power in the system to not only run the N64 games, but calculate and have 4 players going at once. But I think they definitely sell extra controllers. They don't pack in 4. Milkshakes in the chat room is saying they already got patents for the classic N64, and
excellent.
They did that with the Super NES Classic. They'll do that with the N64 Classic. That makes sense to kind of count your chickens before they hatch in that sense, because it's patents, right? You gotta count you gotta get everything in a row. And I think you notice a smaller library with the N64 Classic, how the NES went from 30 to 20 with the Super NES. I think you go like 15 on the N64 because a lot of those games are stuck in. You mentioned GoldenEye. No way GoldenEye's on it. That would be impossible. It's tied up in way too many licensed drama. That'd be unfortunate.
But Ryan...
I know.
So like iconic. If there's an N64 Classic that doesn't have GoldenEye on it,
I'm just preparing you, because honestly, they've tried to release GoldenEye a couple times, and it's gone out the window. And I know Tombstone's saying it's Microsoft now. It's like, well, technically, it's the Bond license owners, it's Microsoft, and it's Nintendo because it was released on a Nintendo platform, so Nintendo still has a say. There was actually a GoldenEye game ready to go on XBLA, and they offered to port it to the Wii at zero cost, but Nintendo said no because they didn't want a Nintendo game. This was years ago. This is an old Nintendo and an old Microsoft. So I think they're two very different companies now. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it would be a tough fight. But you're right. If you do an N64 Classic without GoldenEye, you'd have to have really good reasoning, and you'd have to get in front of that because a lot of folks are going to want GoldenEye, they're going to want Super Mario 64, and Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
And Smash Brothers, I think. Those are the top 4 that have to be in there.
Yep.
I know there are others, but honestly, I could see it getting announced late summer, out in the fall next year, but maybe they take a year off and just kind of like get everybody a Super NES and an NES Classic just to kind of get things going. But this is a stellar package. I honestly have a lot of fun with it, and 2 controllers being in it is amazing because could you imagine? Oh, I remember with the NES Classic, like trying to get an extra controller felt like you were trying to get 2 hot items, and there were less extra controllers available. So it was really tough. But yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this a little more as the months continue, because it'll be nice to have a break from all the big games that are coming this month.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mentioned them off the top of the show, but I am looking forward to October. But man, my wallet is not.
Yeah, and you listed off the games you're looking forward to, and there are a lot of games coming out in October outside of that. Like that's you, and also my list as well. It contains a subset of that. Like it's crazy October. Like you have Shadow War, like you mentioned, but then you also have Destiny 2. If you're a big,
which is not on my list.
Yeah, and if you're a big Warriors fan, Fire Emblem Warriors comes out the 3rd week of October, a week before Odyssey. So that's gonna, make a dent. And I think there's another game coming out late October as well, alongside Assassin's Creed. I'm trying to remember what it was though. Honestly, I think the Switch is gonna trump a lot of games that are coming out on other platforms, including Assassin's Creed. I might have to wait for that one. I know it's Egypt, but I don't know.
I'll get it. I'll tell you how awesome it is, and then you can get it.
Yeah, that's true. It is Egypt. High
hopes.
It's getting okay previews. So, when someone says it's Assassin's Creed is back, that means people are happy that it's a good game, I think. So
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy month, and it starts, next Tuesday.
Next week, yep.
Shadow War is getting pretty okay reviews, so it's good.
We have a patron ad this week from Simon, who says Weekly News Desk is a podcast all about the geek news this week. You can join your 2 knucklehead hosts, Andrew and Simon, as they keep you informed on movies, TV, video games, and books. You can find them on iTunes or at weeklynews.com. And if you would like to sponsor an episode of The Gamers Inn, then please go to patreon.com/thegamersin and look for the episode sponsor backer level. We wanted to thank all of our patrons right now, right here, and remind you guys that we have in a couple of weeks we're going to be doing our patron game night again, so make sure you are paying attention to what is coming out and what has multiplayer and what you want to play with us. Make sure again to go to patreon.com/thegamersin and tell us. You can also join our Discord and talk to us anytime at bit.ly/TGI Discord. Brings us to our topic of the week this week, which is it's charity time again. Extra Life, we are doing it on November 11th because they are being super lame again and not checking the dates of BlizzCon. So
it seems so crazy to do it. I mean, we say this every year. This is, I think, the 3rd year they've done it on BlizzCon.
This is the 3rd year that they've done it the same weekend as BlizzCon, and I'm just like, man, oh man, like make it a weekend earlier or later. I don't care. Just BlizzCon is such a huge event. Like, I don't know. Seems
for
silly.
A lot of folks who want to watch it or go to it, it just seems odd to
it seems
take
odd
over.
To have 2 big gaming events like competing on the same weekend when there's like nothing else going on the weekends around it. Like,
and I should mention, like, BlizzCon is on this network. It's a big deal,
right?
But BlizzCon is still a subset of a very large gaming ecosystem. And with Extra Life, they're targeting every gamer.
Mm-hmm.
BlizzCon is targeting every gamer who likes Blizzard. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge overlap, but it's still not, I think, as great as we envision. But you think if you're running a charity, you'd kind of want to get everything out of your way,
Yeah.
including what is probably the biggest, video game company con in existence. So anyways, yeah, their Extra Life proper is on the 4th alongside BlizzCon, but we're going to be streaming on the 11th. The team's been set up, everything's ready to go. I think I mean the donation stuff is all ready to go. I haven't edited my profile yet, but it's been a busy couple months. Like, it's funny that we're talking about this now. Like, it's a month away. It's crazy. I usually poke people like, hey, we should start talking about this.
Ryan's usually the one that's super, super organized, and I'm the one who's totally slacking off until usually after BlizzCon, at which point I go, okay, now let's talk about Extra Life things. But this year Ryan's had other stuff on his plate. So we actually decided to make a change this year. We've opened up the TGI team. So if you guys wanted to kind of be part of the TGI community on the Extra Life charity page, then you can go to bit.ly/TGI Extra Life _2017, because apparently I've used every other iteration of TGI Extra Life over the last, what is this, our 6th year doing this now? So the URL is, our tiny URL is bigger than normal, but
we'll be talking about it so much. You'll be seeing it on Twitter. October is sort of the BlizzCon hype / hey, remember we're doing Extra Life. And you're going to be seeing a lot of links flying around. We're going to talk about it on the show. So any details we don't cover today will certainly be mentioned as we go forward. And I'll be keeping the website, and hopefully we'll be keeping the team page with the relevant information. But, we're going to stream.
Yeah, we're doing the same sort of thing. It's just the same. We've kind of hit a stride with Extra Life that we're really happy with. So we'll be streaming on twitch.tv/amovetv again on November 11th. As I mentioned, we opened up the team this year, so anyone can join. So if you want to raise money alongside us, then absolutely go to the team page and join up. We're going to be live from kind of late morning all the way through to the next day. And I'm really looking forward to it. We had a couple things that worked really well last year. Donations to spin the wheel of games was super fun, so we might bring that back again. So I think
that's a great idea.
Yeah, we had a great time last year, so we're looking forward to doing it again. So again, bit.ly/TGI Extra Life _2017 is the link that you can go to if you'd like to donate to our cause. We always have a great time. I'm really looking forward to it. I love just the fact that I get to sit down and play multiplayer stuff for the whole day, because most of the gaming that I do is on my own. So I love that Extra Life is just a giant excuse to play games with my friends for 24 hours.
Yeah, I was having a conversation, every year Extra Life comes up, and I'm starting to get the point, this is my 8th year doing it, and I'm starting to get to the point talking to folks who are they less balk at the idea of me playing video games for 24 hours, and are more like, I got to remember to donate this year. It goes to support children's hospitals around the world. Specifically, I think you and I play for sick kids, and there are a couple other folks on the team already. Jim Bean, who's participated in the past, he's already pushed ahead. He's got donations in there.
He's number one on our team, because Ryan and I
doing a great job.
Super slacking.
Yep. And you know what? October is going to be, we mentioned a lot of great games coming out. It's going to be super crazy, but also Extra Life. So we're going to be getting those donations coming in, but most of the donations come in on the day of. But it's just
I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year at our house, so
right?
I think I'm going to be I'm going to put little placeholders that say please donate to my Extra Life campaign. Super old school, when you used to try to raise money or sell magazines and stuff for school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to guilt all of my family and Matt's family into supporting Extra Life.
You joke, but I do remember last year, years previous with Extra Life, I printed off the offline donation thing and would take it around and being like, hey, I'm doing this thing. It's the only thing I do. It's one of my main things I do for charity. It's the thing I put my effort into. And I think that's the main reason I keep doing it, is because honestly, it's nice to have a charity that falls into your wheelhouse. Very passionate about games. and I want to use that passion and put it towards helping other people. And I know Extra Life raises millions of dollars each year, and it's awesome to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Getting to play video games for 24 hours is also a nice bonus for the first 12 hours.
Yes.
After that, it becomes.
I wouldn't say a little bit of a chore.
Yeah, I wouldn't say chore. I wouldn't say work, but it's certainly there are those moments where it's like, gosh, just want to go to bed, guys. Yeah. Like, can we not just pick this up in a couple hours? Mm-hmm. But last year I think was our best year yet with just being awake. You know, it felt like we had a good pattern, and I think that's why we're continuing with it. Because honestly, I felt like 24 hours was not so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think I lasted almost to the very end this time. But I got sick last year. I was like super sick. Like I couldn't even talk. I was like coughing like crazy. And yeah, I just got
you had
sick at the very end. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because we
did it. Yeah, I can't remember. I think, we did it the weekend after BlizzCon, I think. And yeah, it just like caught up to me like all of a sudden. So, but I think I made it like 22 hours last year, even with
which is still phenomenal. And I think we had to tell you to go to bed. It's like,
yes,
it'll be fine. You can do 2 hours. I think you ended up streaming on your own, like maybe a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
And then you brought the team up even more. So, you know, with Extra Life, if you're thinking about joining the team and you're thinking about doing it this year, and 24 hours sounds daunting, there's nowhere in the rules saying that you have to do 24 hours in a row.
Right.
You can split it up. You can try to do as much as possible. I remember
even like us, like we're doing it on November 11th. The actual official Extra Life weekend is November 4th. So they're totally flexible with timing too. So if you don't necessarily have the 4th or the 11th available, you can do it anytime. They take donations right up to the end of the year.
Yeah, and on the 4th, as is tradition, I'll probably be doing the I'm Not Going to BlizzCon stream. So we'll be kicking off Extra Life on the 4th. I'll be bringing people in to play Blizzard games who are also not going to BlizzCon. And we'll go through the lists. Hearthstone, Heroes,
Overwatch, and some Heroes. Yeah.
Overwatch. I'm sure those games will pop up again. The next week. But it is nice to kind of, kick off Extra Life with a BlizzCon stream. It's really nice. I'm looking forward to it. It's because I like to play video games with my friends. It's really good time.
We're going to be streaming on twitch.tv/amovetv. We're going to be doing that November 11th, and the link that you can use if you'd like to donate to our team, or if you'd like to join our team, is bit.ly/TGI Extra Life _2017. We thank you guys all for your support. Everything helps. Sharing the link helps. Coming and watching the stream helps, even if you can't actually donate. Just your presence is going to boost our numbers and boost our visibility. So anything that you can do to help that way is also very much appreciated. That's going to do it for us tonight. You can visit us on the web at gamersinpodcast.com. You can also find us on AMove TV, along with other fabulous podcasts, including The Angry Nerd, Into the Nexus, The Angry Chicken, For Azeroth, Embrace the Spoilers, and Heroes Forge. You can follow us on Twitter. You can find me, Jocelyn, at JustPlays. Ryan is at R. Murphy. And don't forget to follow the show at The Gamers Inn. The video versions of all our episodes can be found on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/amovetv. If you'd like to email the show and let us know if you got your hands on an SNES Classic, please do so at info@gamersinpodcast.com. Thanks. God damn it. Sorry. So close. I was so close. Thanks for staying at the Gamers Inn. Remember, tune in next week. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.